Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Freedom Biker Tour's first live stream event, where we are here to talk about Freedom Biker Tours, its way it came around, meet some of the people involved, and talk about the rides. This is all about part of being our authentic selves. You get to meet us, we get to talk about us, so you know who we are and the offers that we provide. So I'm going to start by introducing the rest of the panel. So I'm going to start with my counterpart on Canada's West Coast, because I am the Ride the Maritimes road captain and a brand ambassador. So my fellow brand ambassador and Ride the West Coast road captain is Travis, also known as Sub-Zero Productions. So I'm going to bring in him now. But before I do that, just for those that don't know me, I also go on YouTube by the name of Deadnot. I started riding in 1984 on a Honda XL 185. And I currently ride a 2014 Victory Cross Country. So for those who have commented about if this was a Harley thing, it's not. They all got to follow me. So welcome, Travis. And I'd like to take a moment to introduce yourself.
How's it going, everybody? I am Travis. I am the West Coast affiliate. I am the road captain, also the owner-operator of Sub-Zero Productions. So I do a lot of videography. I operate a drone for the West Coast stuff. I'm based out of Kamloops. I used to ride a MX 100 Yamaha dirt bike when I first started back when I was a kid, then graduated to a 1983 V65 Magna. And now I ride a 2019 Harley Davidson Ultra Limited.
Cool. So now moving on, just to keep things interesting, we're going to go all the way down under, because right now, most of us here in Canada, we're stuck in snow or cold weather. Bikes are nice and snug and put away with blankets. But now let's talk about riding down under. So I'd like to introduce from Ride the World Motorcycle Tours. This is David.
Thanks, Rob. And for us, it's good morning from Australia, or actually good afternoon. It's just gone after 12 noon. Where did I start riding? I used to meet the police down at the local brickyards because I had a 50cc Honda and I had no license. But now I ride a Harley Davidson 2004 Softail Deluxe. And to make everyone equal, I also have a Royal Enfield Himalayan, which is like a bicycle with an engine. It's great fun. So that's sort of my story so far. The company, we'll talk about it another time.
Excellent. And the final introduction we have today is our founder, chief cook and bottle washer, the man behind the scenes, the man doing all the work. If you call Freedom Biker Tours, this is who you're going to call. And now I'm going to introduce JD.
Boys, how are you? So, good. About me. I'm an old guy that likes to ride motorcycles. No, just kidding. I live in BC, in Western Canada, in the sunny Okanagan Valley, and I've been riding motorcycles since I was a teenager. Started off dirt bike riding. My first street bike was a 650 Midnight Special Yamaha, and I was about 20, I guess, 20, 21, something like that. And then I had a couple of Hondas over the years that were all chopped and, some custom bikes and cruisers and that. But then I graduated about probably 12 years ago to Harley Davidsons. And I have a Softail Deluxe I'm into it for so much money now that it makes me dizzy when I think about it. It's a completely custom bike with custom artwork all over it that matches my ink and that kind of stuff. And then I also have a 2018 Street Glide, which has been so customized by the previous owner that it's almost a CVO in some respects. And so those are my bikes, and I am the founder and president and owner of Freedom Biker Tours. And I'd like to welcome you all to our first ever live stream and the first of a series of live streams over the next 2.5 months.
Perfect. Now, next thing I'd like to do is I'd like to talk and welcome the people in the side chat. Angel Face Motor Rider, if I remember correctly, is out of Calgary. We also have Jasmine Tai. I see Mark Gosselin, and I did see Road Gliders there. Those are first names that I think of scrolling through the chat. That's who I see there. So welcome. Hope you get to see some of the other stuff. And one of the things I want to do is just sort of go over the layout. Over the next couple months, as JD mentioned, we are going to have a number of the different tours that we offer. We're going to dedicate a live stream to them. So as you saw in the intro, I've actually put the dates of those streams. They're also going to be at the end as well, and they'll be in this video description. So if you actually are super interested in one of our tours, that is definitely the one you don't want to miss. But also these will stay on YouTube forever because the internet is forever. And so you'll be able to go back and check them again. So that's the way the flow of the live stream is going to go. But as I mentioned, this time is just the first introduction. So you get to meet us. That way you know more about it, what everyone does kind of thing. So where I wanted to go is let you know about this live stream series, because there in today's disconnected internet society, this is a way to actually reconnect using that tool. So I'm really glad everyone wants to do that. So what I want to sort of kick on to now is I actually want JD to give us the history about Freedom Biker Tours, why it developed, and how it developed.
Thanks, Rob. Well, I'll try and condense it down to just a few minutes. I've been.
I only want to be here an hour, so yeah.
I've been in the travel, tourism, and hospitality industry for my entire career, which is a long time. And I've done pretty much everything in this industry. I've worked in the hotel and resort side. I've worked in the airline side as a flight attendant in operations. And I've managed tour companies, tour operators, and I've been a travel agent. So 10 years ago, 11 years ago now, actually, I decided to go back to school for my third post-secondary accreditation, and I started a graduate degree, a master's degree in tourism management. And it was at Railroads University on Vancouver Island, just outside of Victoria. And it was very interesting. At the first residency, they asked, okay, they said, now you're going to have to do a graduate research project, which is, a year-long research project, kind of a thesis, I guess is what you call it. And, does anybody really know what they want to do? And I put my hand up right away and said, yeah, I do. And they're like, okay, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to do a study on motorcycle tourism and biker culture. And one of the professors rides as well. And he's like, that is the coolest thing. No one's ever done one of those before. So that was it. I had decided. So 2 years later, I started the research, and a lot of field research, going to rallies. I went to the 75th anniversary of Sturgis in 2015.
And called it research.
Yeah, that's right, research. And I went to a couple of hog rallies here in Western Canada as well, and interviewed people, did a lot of videos and that kind of thing, but also did a lot of the literature review, which is a lot of reading. I read a lot of articles, a lot of books. I also watched a lot of videos, those B movies, biker movies from the 60s and 70s, including Easy Rider, of course. And, I wrote the paper, and of course I got an A on the paper, right? But during the, there's Tim. Hi, Tim. During the research, I really learned a lot about the motorcycle culture, the community, the values, the old school Harley biker culture. And I noticed, of course, I researched a lot of the tour companies around the world and in North America. And one thing that I noticed was there was really nobody promoting Canada as an international motorcycle touring destination. And specifically not, the cruiser style motorcycles, the Harley style motorcycles. Nobody was doing, as close to all-inclusive vacation packages, kind of thing. And so it really struck me, because working in the hotel industry for as long as I have, for a hotel in Banff for the last 15 years in the Canadian Rockies, I deal with a lot of motor coach, bus tour operators from around the world. And I thought we should offer a similar type of product, but on motorcycles. where it's a worry-free holiday where these people, they just get on the bus and everything is handled for them. Well, Freedom Biker Tours is offering the same kind of thing, but we get on our motorcycles and everything is handled for us, right? That's the whole idea here behind Freedom Biker Tours. And that's what, and I just lost my light.
Oh, but you're shining bright for us. Don't worry.
Yeah, I just lost my light. Damn. Well, okay, I'm going to have to try and figure that out. As long as you guys can still see me.
Oh, we can hear you. That's what matters.
So that's the whole idea. Is, I realized that there was something missing in the marketplace in Canada to promote Canada as an international motorcycle tourism destination. And that's our goal, essentially, with Freedom Biker Tours. Even though we have affiliates around the world, like David in Australia and down in Mexico, where we are promoting and we're offering rides down there, and they're buying into our programs in Canada. That's our goal is to bring Canada to a high level on the world stage as an international motorcycle touring destination, right? So, in essence, that's the impetus behind Freedom Biker Tours.
Cool. Now, you did mention a few things about sort of like the brand and how you came up with it, talking about the fact that no one was promoting Canada. And you talk a bit about sort of like biker culture earlier. Can you talk about how that fits into the Freedom Biker Tours brand?
Right. Well, the values, there's 4 core values for Freedom Biker Tours. And those are also the values from the old school biker culture. Freedom, of course, and not the freedom that a lot of people think, especially after the last few years with the pandemic and everything. It's not that kind of freedom.
We're not doing a freedom convoy under the guise of a motorcycle ride.
It's the freedom of the open road. It's that freedom, that emotional freedom that we get when we ride our motorcycles. That's the freedom that we're talking about. It's freedom as being cage free, right? That's a motorcycle, that's a biker term, being cage free. When you're riding in a truck or a car or a van, you are riding in a cage. When you're in a motorcycle, you're cage free, right? So we offer cage free vacation packages at Freedom Biker Tours. The other one of the other values is authenticity. That's a real personal one for me, is the authenticity piece. But an authenticity these days in business and in personal life is becoming more and more and more important to people. And so we want people to come on our tours, and it's an opportunity to be your authentic self. Self-express, let it out. Wear your colors. I'm a lifetime hog member, and I got vests with patches left, right, and center all over my vests and my jackets. And that's what we want people to do. We want people to be themselves, and then the third value is acceptance. You're going to be accepted. As long as you share the same values and that same passion for riding, we want you to ride with us. You're accepted. Come on, join us. And then the last one is brotherhood and sisterhood, which sort of sums up all those other ones. The authenticity piece, the acceptance piece is brotherhood. And of course, that, as you look at Hollywood movies, TV shows all about bikers and stuff. Well, brotherhood, that is the name of the game, right? And sisterhood for the lady riders. So the world really needs more brotherhood and sisterhood, as far as I'm concerned. So that's really the message that Freedom Biker Tours is trying to convey out there to all of us in the business and in the world, actually. And especially after the last few years and everything that's been going on, I think the timing of our message is pretty fortuitous.
Yeah, I agree. I want to jump into the comments. Welcome a few more people. I see Mr. Roy's there. Ray's. I can't quite see it. And we did have Bow Valley Ranch Productions, but we did have a question that Travis popped in the chat to answer. But I wanted to expand upon it because Travis exactly feels the same way I do. And want to know about how safe this is for beginners. And a lot of that is more about the individual. Now I know how I lead a ride, and this style of ride is not a race. The slower you go, the more you can enjoy the sights and sounds and smells of riding through this countryside. And so, if you're comfortable in a group of 6 to 12, I think it'd be fine, because we're not going to be going down the highway, handlebar to handlebar, peg to peg. We're going to be staggered out, taking our time, enjoying the view. That is part of the experience. And speaking for myself, I've taken beginners in a small group for rides like this, and it's never a problem. Travis, your thoughts?
My thoughts are exactly you take the ride as it comes. You teach riders as you go. You're going to have experienced riders. You're going to have novice riders. But if you're novice riders, you got to teach them something. You spend the time to teach them. It's better to be everybody to be safe and traveling at a pace that's comfortable. And we all want to come home to our families, and that's the main thing in the end of the game, and enjoy our trip.
Yeah, well, one big key thing I always also tell everyone, everyone is a rookie on their first ever group ride at some point in their riding career. We don't just all get this great experience. I remember my first poker run riding in a pack, all those things I remember because I was a rookie once too. And that's the great thing about the brotherhood, is that a lot of people remember that. So if you show up as a beginning rider, you're going to get taken under someone's wing. They want you to have a good time. So that's how I want to answer that. JD, are we fitting within your culture?
Exactly. These are vacation packages. That's why they're as close to all inclusive as you're going to get, because we don't want anybody to have to worry about anything. That's the whole connection with, like, on a motor coach, a bus tour, but we're on motorcycles. We've got our support vehicle, we've got our guides, everything is looked after. You can concentrate on learning how to ride if that's something that you're doing. If you're a relatively new rider, you can concentrate on the scenery. You can concentrate on just breathing, the experience, the freedom, all that kind of stuff. Right? That's what we want. This is not iron butt riding. There are a few days where we may do 400 kilometers in a day because there's not a lot of excursions or attractions and activities for us to do, but we're still going to stop and take photo ops and look at the scenery and and take in the region that we're riding in. And then there's other days where we're only going to ride 150 to 200 kilometers because we've got an activity or two to do that day that's built into the tour program, right? Or we got a ferry we're riding because we're in Canada, right? There's a lot of water around here, so that kind of thing, right? It's all, the pace of the rides. Tim's asked now, how's the pace of the ride? Are the days fairly easy days? Like I just said, some days less kilometers than other days, but the pace is never such that we're riding from dawn till dusk. We're not.
Yeah, that's why I popped this comment up there, because you were talking about it, and just as Tim popped it in, so. So we're also going to go on to another comment that I know you have mentioned, that we're getting close, that you do a close to all-inclusive package. Do you want to expand upon that?
Sure. When I say it's close to all-inclusive as you can get, what I mean by that is when you look at our pricing on the website, the only thing that is not included in that is the sales tax that's on top of the overall tour price, because that has to be broken out separately. It's an accounting legal thing that you have to do based on the region that you're riding in. But our pricing includes, everything: accommodation, fuel for the motorcycle, taxes on the hotel accommodation, most of the meals. Like, there's breakfast every day. There's several lunches depending on the itinerary, and most dinners. There's a few places where dinner's not included, like on Ride the Rockies and Best of BC, we stayed 2 nights in Banff and 2 nights in Penticton. So in order to give a bit of free time for the tour participants, one of the nights in each of those places, there's no dinner organized, so that you can wander, do your own thing, that kind of thing, right? A little bit of one of the things I learned about bus tours is the tour participants appreciate some free time on their own away from their group, right? So we try to build that into our programs. But even when it comes to the meals, the taxes and the gratuities are also included in the pricing you're looking at. So for the tour participants to whip out their own wallet and have to pay for stuff, very, very rarely. Like maybe one of those dinners that's not included, or you want to buy a souvenir or something like that. But other than that, everything is included in our programs. I don't want to say anything nasty about any of our competitors, but I guess what I need to say is when you're going to look at shopping around for a motorcycle vacation, really, really take a deep dive into what's included and what's not included. Okay. You know, our pricing includes everything. So that's a lot of value built into our packages. And that's why we make it worry-free. And I guarantee it personally that you're going to have a worry-free vacation with us. And you're not going to have to whip out your wallet for hardly anything, you know. Oh, and airfare is not included, by the way.
Yeah.
If you're
Yeah.
flying.
So we'll jump back into some of the other questions that I'll try and answer for you. Bow Valley Ranch is asking about activities. So I'm going to talk briefly about some of the Maritimes tour ones. There's a short boat ride on a lobster boat when we do our lobster lunch event. We are going to visit some of the things in PEI. If people want to do like the Anna Green Gables historical stuff, we're also going to go to some of the parks where you can walk on the ocean floor on the Bay of Fundy that has the world's highest tides. So we do have some sort of that neat, unique, local flair to these different things. And so I just want to say that we have different things to try to get them matched in together. There are a few other comments that I do want to jump in on. James Bond. Now I'm going to answer his, just that because he's talking about PTSD. And so I'm retired military. I spent 31 years. And have been involved in a large number of large PTSD events that are circled around motorcycle riding for exactly that reason, such as the Rolling Barrage, which is a coast-to-coast in Canada PTSD awareness. Basically, I call it a rolling support group. And that's really helped a lot of people, raises a lot of funds too. But there's also Dispatchers Adventure Ride. Many people will tell you, yes, getting the cage-free comments that JD puts in. I make a joke about, only a biker knows why a dog sticks his head out the car window. So JD, I'll let you expand.
That was one of my quotes from my thesis. Come on.
That one's been around for a while, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think I had it on a T-shirt once.
On that topic, though, to Mr. Bond, that PTSD is like throttle therapy. Riding a motorcycle is a real. It's like meditation, and riding a motorcycle in of itself is a form of meditation. And it's funny. This is another definition that I found when I was doing my research several years ago for my thesis. But it talks about throttle therapy, and it says throttle therapy is the term for time spent on a motorized bike with the intent to enjoy feelings of euphoria that may exceed the capabilities of prescription or illegal drugs. That was one of the coolest throttle therapy definitions that I found. But riding in a group is a very safe way to go. It's there is no safer way to ride a motorcycle because the pace is set by the group leaders and the guides, right? So nobody is going to be forced to ride at a speed or that they're not comfortable with or anything like that, right? So it's a very, very safe environment when riding on your own.
Phone.
Who's that?
I know, it's mine.
Oh, hey.
Well, that won't.
Tour participants can relax, enjoy the scenery and the saddle time. It's your vacation, right?
Don't worry, it's a message in the background.
I just muted him. That way he can, if you want to take the call, David, or let that go, just unmute yourself when you're done.
Yeah, like what Road Glider said. Exactly right, man. We're touring, not dragging knees. You get to see more that way. That's exactly right.
I'm back.
You guys are paying money for a vacation. Well, our job is to make sure that you have a vacation and you relax, right? And that's our job. That's why we say it's a worry-free motorcycle vacation, and I guarantee it.
Yeah, and
Except for me, I get to drag knees. I get to drag knees while I get ahead to take good footage.
That's because your bike is so low to the ground, man. That's why.
I was going to say maybe because you're short. I don't know, but
The other side of the safety of a group in Australia, particularly if you guys come for a ride, we're on the other side of the road. That's really the trick. Like I've done Route 66 and stuff, and it's great being in a group because you go, I don't have to think I'm coming out of a driveway. I'll just follow them.
Well, I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something. You're right, David, and that's why we're going to rely on you when we do the Australian tour next year, right? Riding on the other side of the road. But I'll tell you something. I went down with my fiance. I went down last November, and I did the Yucatan tour program that we sell in Canada. We did it with our affiliate down in Mexico, and that is the first thing that impacted me. Here I am riding for 7 days somewhere where I've never been before, in Mexico, around the Yucatan Peninsula, and I didn't have to worry. I didn't have to pull out my phone, a GPS, a map. I didn't get lost once. The days went by smooth. I got to see and enjoy. We went to Chichen Itza. We went to this big cenote, and we're jumping in. We're on the beach. We're in these little towns with little Mexican kids running around. We're having all this great fun, and I was so relaxed the whole time I was doing it because there was a guy at the front and a guy at the back leading the group, and I didn't have to worry about anything. So
just want to sidetrack a quick minute. JD, here's a question, and probably David might have to answer it too. Rental motorcycles. I would probably guess that you require a full motorcycle license,
Yes.
but I actually don't know.
We do.
Yeah, Marion's correct. You got to have a full motorcycle license. You can't have a learner's or anything like that. And we do recommend a good level of experience on a cruiser style bike, right? I mean,
Yeah, especially if you're renting and don't have experience on a heavyweight bagger.
Yeah, if you're riding your own bike, which is fine with us too, right? We have pricing for ride your own, or that includes a rental. And Marion is our rental person at Calgary Harley Davidson for our Rockies program. But you've got to rent and you got to rent a motorcycle. You got to be 21 years of age or older as well.
Ours is 25.
Yeah, a lot of 21-year-olds probably don't want to hang out with old farts like us anyway.
Tim's asked, do we get to see any wildlife in the Rockies? Yes, we do. What did we see last year? We saw mountain goats and moose and elk.
And lots of tourists stopping to try to pet the grizzly bear.
Yay!
That's the craziest thing I've seen. Watching the tourists trying to get the selfie with a grizzly bear.
Road Gliders has brought up another good point too, the benefit of riding in a group. If anybody has an issue, everyone's going to help you because you're surrounded by like-minded people. And remember, Travis, Keith had an issue in Falkland last year.
Yeah, his water pump went.
Yeah.
And he was having all kinds of issues with his lights coming on, but I've dealt with that myself. So we nursed his bike back to Kelowna, and then I took him over to Harley Davidson in Kelowna, who got him in right away. He had to miss the next day of ride, but he got his bike fixed for the rest of the tour, so it actually worked out really well.
Yeah, he missed 1 day of the tour, and that was it. So he was real happy about all that.
We're starting to Canadianize David.
Hey. I'm going to have to learn a whole new accent.
Yeah.
I just want to touch a little bit more on the riding the big, heavy bagger bikes. They are a little bit, if you're not used to riding one, they are a little bit to get used to because they're a little bit top heavy compared to a normal, say, a KTM or something that's a little bit lighter in that. And when you first jump on them, they can surprise you how quick they'll fall over.
Yeah. Yeah. Big ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's okay. I mean, that's why we say, we really recommend that you've got some experience riding a cruiser style bike. But, like I said, you can ride your own. We work with the Canadian Motorcycle Tourism Association and their travel agency division. So you can ship your bike to ride on one of our tours. You can trailer it. You can ride it. It doesn't really matter if you want to ride your own bike if you're not comfortable riding a larger rental machine or something like that. So there's lots of different ways of approaching it. We've designed it to be flexible in that way. So
yeah, and I've seen some people, maybe you want to ship your bike one way, especially here in North America, ship your bike to the coast, whichever coast, east or west, from wherever you are, do the ride, then ride home, or ride to the coast, do the tour, then ship your bike home and fly home. I've seen things like that happen too on some of the bigger rides.
Yeah.
So
Marion brought up a good point. Fit is important. Yeah, for safety, you got to match the size of the bike to the experience and comfort level of the rider. That's exactly right. So nobody's forced to do anything that they're not comfortable with, right? But they have to be honest.
Yep.
If you're going to book a motorcycle tour or vacation, don't tell me you've been riding for 20 years, big cruiser style bikes, show up and the biggest bike you've ridden on is a 250 Honda dirt bike or something like that, right? That's not cool, because you're just asking for problems when you do that.
There's the other problem of people when they come back to riding. Oh, I've had a license since I was 18 years old. I'm 58 now, but they haven't ridden a bike for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
That's another one that pops up.
Well, I'm kind of more the opposite, as I didn't actually bother getting my license till 25 years after I started riding.
You're definitely not living in Australia.
That's funny.
That was just one of those things. Nah.
So just to sum up some of the stuff we've been talking about, as far as why to ride in a group, right? Like the group leaders set the pace, the safe way to go. The tour participants don't have to worry about navigation, so their phones can go away until we stop, and then they take them out for pictures or Facebook posts or whatever, right? And then there's hand-picked popular motorcycle riding roads. We know the best roads to ride on in Canada. And for, the tour that David and I are developing for Australia for a year from now, David knows the good roads to ride in Australia, right? So, and the accommodations for Freedom Biker Tours, our accommodations are quality accommodations, that fit with the level of the program and the service that you're going to get from us, right? We don't stay in dumpy little 2-star motels. We stay in good quality accommodations, right? Then good, fun, good quality food and beverage establishments too. We go to, whenever possible, we go to biker friendly, really cool places to eat and drink once the bikes are parked, right? We don't go to Denny's. No, with all due respect to Denny's, things like that, right? We go to cool pubs and places that are biker friendly establishments. Like a lot of places we go to, you're going to see lots of other bikes parked outside when we arrive, right? Then attractions and excursions. Well, we have a lot of them. Rob touched on a few of them, but on the Maritimes program, there's a lot more. We do a tall ship dinner cruise in the harbor, Sydney Harbor. We go to the Citadel, which is the big 200 and some year old fort in the center of town. We go to Lunenburg, we go to Peggy's Cove, all those famous places, right? When you're out here in the Rockies, well, you're in the Rockies. You go to Banff, we're going to go up the Banff Gondola. We're going to, just see all those kinds of sites, right? When we're in Penticton in the Okanagan, well, the Okanagan is wine region. We're doing a wine tour, right? Things like that. So reliability and safety are of paramount importance, and that's one thing that the tour participants can count on. We've got backups, so if the bikes break down, we can get it towed, and we've got a support vehicle, and there's a first aid kit in there. There's water, there's snacks, there's picnic lunch stuff. There's all that kind of thing. So
Yeah, and Tim had mentioned that in a comment asking about a chase vehicle, and also if people had to pack their own gear. And that's a great benefit of a chase vehicle is you don't have to pack your own gear.
Well, that's right. You're riding free. Carmen has asked about sidecars and passengers. Well, of course, all the bikes. If you're riding your own bike, well, if you want to bring a passenger, that's up to you. But all the rental bikes have passenger pillions on them, so they're designed for two people. So it's all good from that perspective. And
my wife went with me on the tour of the Rockies last year. She spent the whole time on the back, loved it.
Yeah, and my fiance comes with me as well on the tours. She also happens to be a videographer, so she's a really important part of the team.
Mine's getting there too.
Yeah.
I'm teaching her slowly.
So one of the things I want to kick over to now, because we've kind of talked about a lot of things like the Canadian Motorcycle Tourism Association travel, where they help ship bikes and facilitate those kind of things. So actually what I want to do now is just start talking quickly about the high overhead views of some of our tours. So I'm actually going to do this in the order of our upcoming chats about them. So what we're going to do is basically talk about one of the rides. I'll pull up a map and we'll talk quickly about it. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen and showing Ride the Rockies. So this tour, this is the one you guys did last year, if I remember correctly.
And it's the same itinerary this year as well, because it was extremely well received, rave reviews about it. So,
yeah. So for those that don't know the area, basically that is British Columbia and Alberta. Furthest to the right is basically Calgary, where you're basically going to leave out of there and you're going to head up some of the more scenic highways right in the Rockies. Some of the video you already saw was very majestic peaks. Then you're going to go through Jasper, down Yellowhead, over towards where Travis hangs out, then over to where JD hangs out, doing some of the rides there, then through basically the Crow's Nest Pass. So a lot of video stuff about that is on the Freedom Biker Tours channel, as well as Sub-Zero Productions. He has a whole bunch of his videos up there. And that's the region he rides in. I used to ride there, but I moved. But that's part of the fun. Some of the things that you have in there, like the Highwood Pass, the highest paved road in Canada. There's just some neat things there that are just unique to the region. And so this tour, Travis, what do you want to say about it?
I'll say this is probably one of the most scenic rides you'll do in all of BC and Alberta, because you go through the Highwood Pass, which is the highest pass in Canada, but you also go through the Columbia Ice Fields. You go through by Mount Robson, which is the highest peak in the Canadian Rockies, and then you swing into Wellsgrave Falls, Helmeken Falls, which is I think the third or fourth highest fall in all of Canada. And then you circle into the Okanagan area and do a tour through some of the best roads down there in the wine country and all that kind of stuff, and spend the night in Penticton overlooking the Okanagan Lake. Then you go to Nikasp, which is, again, one of the best through the Monashee Playgrounds, what I like to call it, one of the most twistiest mountain roads that we have. And you stay at a campground that's an all-inclusive campground called the Riders Retreat in Nikasp. And then from there, you continue on to some more of what a lot of us people from BC like to ride through the Kootenays is some of the best roads through there. You got 33A or 3A, and then you end up going down Highway 3 into Frank Slide, Crow's Nest Pass area, and then one of my favorite roads in Alberta, Highway 22, which takes you up. One side has the Rockies, and the other side has the Alberta Plains back to Calgary.
Yeah. The nice thing about this itinerary is you're riding in three distinct regions: the Rockies region in Alberta, and then you're down into you come down into BC from the northern part of the Rockies, from Jasper, and you're doing the Okanagan, and then you're doing the Kootenays. So three distinct regions, all with their own special scenery and activities to do and things like that, right? So it's really a great itinerary.
I just want to touch on Tim's question here about the weather. The weather can change fast, but most of the time it's decent at that time of year. When we did the ride, it was probably high 25 Celsius wise. So if you're American or whatever, it's going to be Fahrenheit. But the weather
I've been
for
caught
the
this
10 days
snowing
that
every
we're
month.
gone,
I got
it can
snowed on in
go,
August.
yeah, that happens too, but not very often.
You know, the Rockies are always a crapshoot to a certain extent. I've ridden the Rockies like we did last year on the tour at near the end of June, and it was like Travis said, it was nice. I've also ridden the Rockies in the first week of August, and it was a little chilly, but it's never so chilly that it's not rideable, right? And we're all bikers. Let's face it, right? We should be prepared for that kind of stuff with the proper gear. So
I've been to the point where I've been in the ice fields at the summit of the ice fields, and it was 40 degrees Celsius. And I've also been through there when it's been probably 6 degrees, and that's both at the end of June. So it can vary. As long as you have the gear, though, you're fine.
So see a few new names in the side chat. So Grant, Marine Rider, buddy of mine. Thanks for coming, buddy. He also has a friend. We try and convince him to come up there because maybe I'll get back out west to go riding with him there. But he's down in the States. I'm trying to get him to Nova Scotia too, but that's a different story. I see Lisa's in there. She also brings up a question that we did talk about, but not necessarily a connection between PTSD and motorcycles. But as a service veteran myself, I know that a lot of PTSD symptoms are alleviated when you get to ride and get that freedom. We did talk about that earlier in the chat. There are large-scale motorcycle events related to PTSD for fundraising and awareness, such as Rolling Barrage, Dispatches Adventure Ride. That's for here in Canada.
Well, you know how motorcycling actually really started and how the motorcycle clubs got going, right? It was after the Second World War when the combat veterans needed an outlet for what was not called PTSD then, but that's what they had was PTSD. They started getting together and riding the motorcycles, and it accomplished that. It gave them that outlet that they needed. It gave them the camaraderie that they were used to when they were, together in their units during the war, and it gave them that freedom, that feeling of euphoria and freedom and release that Rob just spoke about, right? So there's a definite connection that came up in my research for my thesis several years ago. There's a definite connection to post-traumatic stress disorder and motorcycling, and motorcycling does definitely help. It's very therapeutic. It's been proven.
So Angel's talking about the conversion of Celsius to Fahrenheit. So when we were talking about freezing, which is about 32 when the snow starts, and then the high of 25, which is about 75, 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Jumping in now, I'm going to go to my neck of the woods now, is our Ride the Maritimes tour, where you get to basically visit three provinces. Actually, yeah, three provinces. Cape Breton Island likes to say they're their own province, but they're not. So basically this tour covers, as you mentioned, Peggy's Cove, Lunenburg, which are some very historical places, as well as Halifax itself. Then we'll tour up along, going to the south side of the Bay of Fundy before heading down to Cross Bay of Fundy on a ferry. One of the great things about New Brunswick is a new highway called the Fundy Trail Parkway. Then which is a seasonal road that's only open in the summer, kind of like Highwood Pass out west. And it'll take us along the parks and along the north side of the Bay of Fundy. I have some videos up there on my Dead Knot channel about that, and some of it's also on the Freedom Biker Tours YouTube channel. Then we're going to head up to Moncton, overnight there. Then we'll go up to Shediac, the lobster capital of Canada, before heading over to Prince Edward Island, Canada's smallest province. We'll spend 2 nights there doing little touristy things before we take the ferry off. And then after we take the ferry off, we'll move our way up following the coastline and head up to Bedeque, Nova Scotia. As an Air Force guy, that's the site of the first flight in Canada, was Bedeque. And then the next day, we're going to spend the entire day and travel the basically 200 miles, about 320 kilometers of the Cabot Trail. That is an all-day event. Even though it's not that big a distance, you stop and smell the roses, you look at things, you go for little hikes, and it's all good. And back to Side Chat. Hi, Wayne. I see Jarvis Bikers here. Then after Bedeck, we pop ourselves down. We go on what we call the Eastern Shore, working way back to the Halifax airport for people to fly out. That itinerary itself, because there was a question talked about the length of time. Some of these are 12-day trips, so it does cover a lot of miles. This Nova Scotia one's about 1,500 miles, almost 2,400 kilometers. So that is something that, but you do travel it over a large number of days. So just switching screens again. So that's the Maritimes tour in a nutshell. Some of the great things about that, I'm wearing my Cabot Trail shirt right now. The Cabot Trail is one of those rides that is very unique. And funny thing that I like to tell people in BC is that Nova Scotia has more highways along coastline than BC does. And that's part of the fun of, our riding here, is it follows the coastline, a lot of our roads. So that's the fun of it anyway. So checking into questions. Yes, Grant, retiring from the military. That's good. Looking forward to it. And glamping. Glamping is kind of a new thing out here in Nova Scotia too. We're not booked into any of them, but they are getting some of those geodesic domes they put on the shoreline so you can watch the things. Angel's asking the famous spot for the Bay of Fundy. That's the Hopewell Rocks, which is part of this tour, where the large funny-shaped rocks, where you can walk among them on the ocean floor when it's at low tide. So that's the Hopewell Rocks. So I think I've covered the Maritimes in depth. So now we're going to jump back to Ride the West Coast. So I'll let JD take this one.
Ride the West Coast starts and ends in Vancouver, and we ride out into the Fraser Valley to Harrison Hot Springs, and then onwards to Hope, and then we head up the Trans-Canada Highway through the Fraser Canyon with some amazing riding up the Fraser Canyon along the Fraser River. And then we hit the town of Lytton, which is the little town that burnt down a couple of years ago. And then we on to Lillooet, and then we circle around through the infamous Duffy Lake Road, which is a couple hours of riding. And we come into Pemberton and Whistler from the north. And we stay in Whistler, and then we head down the Sea to Sky Highway from Whistler to Squamish. We head up the, I'm having a senior's moment.
Sunshine Coast.
No, the gondola. We ride up the gondola, Sea to Sky gondola. That's it, in Squamish. And then we take the ferry over to Gibson's, and we go and we have dinner at the Molly's Reach bar and restaurant right on the seashore, which is where, if you remember the TV show back in the 70s and 80s, the Beachcombers, that's where they used to hang out, made the place famous. And then we ride up through Seashelt and further up the Sunshine Coast to Powell River, and then we take the ferry across to Vancouver Island. We ride down the coast of Vancouver Island, and we cut across the island through Pacific Rim National Park, which has some of the oldest trees in North America. They're hundreds and hundreds of years old. Then we stay a couple nights in Port Alberni, and we ride up to Long Beach, to Tofino. We do whale watching. We have a barbecue on the beach, things like that. Then we ride around to the Cowichan Valley, and we do overnight at Lake Cowichan, and then over to the west coast of Vancouver Island again. And then we ride down the coast into Victoria, and we stay overnight in Victoria at the Inner Harbor tourist area there, and then back to Vancouver. So it's a really cool itinerary that takes in all the scenic riding of Canada's West Coast of British Columbia.
And if you like twisty roads, this is the ride for you because it's got some of the best twisty roads there is out there. Especially once you get like the Duffy Lake is good, but once you get onto the island, there's lots of tight corners and there's lots of big, almost like you're riding through the rainforest. It's a really neat ride.
Yeah.
And just to put some perspective into it, some of these roads are new. Like when I lived out in Vancouver Island, the road that actually made you be able to go to Port Renfrew and then follow the coast didn't exist.
Yeah.
That's actually new in the last 10 years. And some of the roads there, because again, I grew up in BC and I've also lived out there. Those are some very, very nice roads. Because I actually grew up. I remember the Duffy Lake when it was a dirt road.
So do I.
Yeah, we're old.
That lake from Cowichan Lake to Port Renfrew, that's a neat ride because it's like almost like a paved bush road. And then when you get closer to Port Renfrew, you come into like a rainforest section and you got these gigantic trees that just tower over the road. It makes you feel so small.
So welcome to VTV Kids Review. Yeah, we mentioned that earlier. We're not iron butt riders. This is to be able to stop and smell the roses, enjoy the scenery. So yeah, there's no things like that. Angel, that's actually the BC ferries that cuts through American waters when it heads to Vancouver. So we don't actually have to drive it, but it's not a bridge or anything. It's just the BC ferries. So anything else you want to add about the West Coast ride? So now we're going to move on to going down under, because this is the fun part, is if you want to ride year round, ride the summers here, then go down to Australia. And so I'm going to call up this map of Southeast Australia, which reminded me of a song.
We'll see how many of the other crew know this country. This is going to be testing you all. You've all spoke about the places and the rides I've had. This one has some of my most favourite rides. We have a thing called the Macquarie Pass that just goes up the escarpment behind the coast. We're making sure you get to see some kangaroos, but you don't have to meet them up front while you're on the motorbike. We prefer you meet them away from the motorbike. It's far safer for all. Where else have we gone with this? We start in Sydney. We got a few days in Sydney, the main city for Australia. It's not the capital. We shoot down the coast from there. Rob, you bringing it back or?
Yeah, I'm just working on it. Had a bit of a finger glitch there.
This is called the first time we do it.
Yeah, no, well, that was the fun of doing this one different than the others. So I just ended up trying to do something else, but actually undid the one thing. There we go. Now I'm back.
Okie doke. So we start in Sydney, which is sort of to the right-hand side of the screen towards the corner, but down a bit. We come down the coast. We go through a national park. We meet up with some kangaroos. We do a magic bridge, which was shown in the preview. You showed the Seacliff Bridge. We do that. Shoot down. A day later, we go up the mountains and we come back down the mountain. Then we go back up the mountain. We've had a few lookouts along the way because it's worthwhile doing. We ride down through there, heading south. Some nice countryside. Someone was asking about speeds and things. Although it's a national highway, it's not a multi-lane highway. It's at times quite narrow, two-laner. Speed limits in Australia, in New South Wales, Victoria tend to be about 100 kilometres an hour with lots of advisory speeds in town. So we have to drop down at times to 80 kilometres, 50 kilometres, that sort of thing. And for the gentleman who's in Pennsylvania, that means we're travelling at 60 miles an hour is the limit. 35 is 60. So I saw a Pennsylvania pop up there. We come down the coast, head across. We've got a night in a pub, like a real traditional Aussie pub. Have a pub meal, which are absolutely brilliant. We go over to Phillip Island. So if anyone's into motorcycle racing, Phillip Island's one of the major places. We do a ferry ride as well. Why should we just let you Canadians have all the fun going across water? We go the Great Ocean Road, and then we go. It's a bit of fun on the strip going where it sort of cuts Victoria in half. The road's going up through there. There's a place called Swan Hill, and it shows the Australian colonial history, gold mining and that, because this region was major gold mining territory. When the 49ers had drained out California, they discovered in 51 that Victoria had gold fields, so they all came out to have a look. We shoot across, we try to catch up with the old bush ranger who was an outlaw called Ned Kelly. We go to the town he's famous with. We go then through mountains, which I think you guys would call hills. We call them the Snowy Mountains. I think you guys would start calling them Snowy Hills. They're not that high. Through the national capital, but we don't stop because it's full of politicians and they'll bore us to tears. Up through there to a famous car racing area, motorcycle racing area called Bathurst. We have some time out. We have a side trip. You can take it if you want, or just stay in Bathurst and relax. We had a rest back further when we were on a river town called Yucatan, and then we come back to Sydney. And someone lives in Adelaide. No, we don't quite get that far. Wildcard, sorry. We only get as far as Warrnambool, which is near the border of South Australia. We take our time. If you ever see our website, you'll see that we do experiences beyond the ride. That doesn't mean that it's head on the front wheel and tail up in the air and just how hard can I turn that throttle. We just take it easy. And I'll talk about it more when it's my day.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people are going to look forward to the April date when we actually cover this in depth. But Scott does have a question about snakes. And can you tell us about the wildlife that you mentioned kangaroos?
If it starts with an S, it's dangerous. Snakes, spiders, sharks. They're the three dangerous. There's another one we're not going to see anymore. That's called a crocodile. That starts with a C. You'll be safe. I've lived here all my life. I think I've seen 2 snakes in the whole time, and I was on a country place at one stage. Spiders, we just take caution, make sure spiders don't get in your boots or things like that. That's pretty rare. We're in a fairly civilized area. Snakes are more scared of us than we're scared of snakes. Yeah. What else would you like to know?
No, that's about it. I'll jump back in the side chat. Welcome a few people. I saw Neville popped in. Yes, Neville, this is recorded to watch later. You'll be able to check it out later.
I know Neville.
Oh, that's cool. And,
he lives just south of us.
I'd like to welcome Belt Drive Betty. She's the mover and shaker with Canadian Motorcycle Tourism Association and the Canadian Motorcycle Tourism Travel Association, who we have mentioned, who could probably help you fly your bike to Australia if you needed to. And that's always always a good thing.
The CMTA has a fully licensed travel agency division, CMTA Travel Services, and they provide all of the ancillary services for Freedom Biker Tours and other tour operators as well. And ancillary services are things like airfare, insurance, shipping of motorcycles, things like that, right? So, and Renee being an extremely seasoned rider, best person to talk to about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. One of the other things I wanted to mention for any other Australians we have on here, for any of the tours you have questions about on here, feel free to reach out to David because he'll help coordinate and facilitate your Canadian ride experience. And so Angel wants to know where the viewers are currently living. So if people want to pop in the side chat where you are, that'd be a great thing because now it looks like we do have someone from Australia. I know we have people from across Canada on here, so that's pretty good. We've been maintaining 15 to 20 people the whole time, so that's pretty good. Last ride we're going to talk about, Kurt couldn't make it. So JD, do you want to talk about C&M Motorcycle Tours and the Yucatan event that you went on last November?
Yeah, C&M Motorcycle Tours is they also have they're based on the island of Cozumel, which is right near Cancun in Mexico in the Yucatan Peninsula. They have a scooter tour and rental company on the island of Cozumel they also have a fleet of Harley Davidson motorcycles that they actually rent on the island of Cozumel, but you have to stay on the island. You can't rent a bike and come back to the mainland. The only way you can ride the Harley with these guys on the mainland is to take their 7-day ride the Yucatan tour, which my fiance and I did last November. Freedom Biker Tours is the exclusive distributor of that particular tour program to Canadians. Any Canadian resident that wants to ride the Yucatan week-long program has to buy through Freedom Biker Tours, and it's a great program. It's not a lot of riding. It's about 1,000 kilometers in total because, again, you're in Mexico. It's a vacation package, right? So the longest day is about 250 kilometers in one day, but every other day there's a lot of activities you're doing. You're really getting immersed in the in the culture down there. You know, you get to interact with the locals. You get a lot of history, like Chichen Itza, the Mayan culture. That's really cool, that place. A lot of fun activities, some good beach time. You get to go out on a boat ride and see some crocodiles in their natural environment, and things like that. So it's you get to drink a lot of Mexican beer. So that's always a lot of fun too, right? Not when you're on the bikes, mind you. Only when the bikes are parked. So yeah, it's that one is it doesn't cover as much ground as our Canadian tours do, obviously, but like I said, it's a vacation package, and it's priced accordingly too. It's very, very, very well priced.
So basically, all these different rides and the upcoming live streams, feel free to watch our page. They're all listed in some of the posts we have, as well as videos to promote each of them, things like that. Yeah, Wildcard Adventures wants 2 beer. Okay. I'm actually empty, so I'm thinking we should start thinking about wrapping this up. What other things do we want to talk about today, guys?
Well, we want to talk about the fact that we've got another, 5 more of these live streams coming up. The next one is on March 2nd. So they're on Saturdays at the same time.
March 2nd, we're going to dedicate just to the Ride the Rockies and Best of British Columbia.
That's right. Ride the Rockies and Best of BC. So we're going to delve into, we're going to scratch that. We're going to take a deep dive into Ride the Rockies and Best of British Columbia on Saturday, March the 2nd for an hour.
Wildcard, do we do this every year? You're talking about the rides or these live streams? This is both new for this. The Australian tour, we're looking at 2025 already.
Yeah. We're going to have the Australian tour up and live and ready to be booked within a couple of months, but it's in the end of March and beginning of April 2025, so it's still more than a year away. The Rockies and Best of BC tour, yes, is an annual thing. The Maritimes tour, yes, is an annual thing. Ride the West Coast, I'd like it to be an annual thing. We'll see how it goes. We also do have an itinerary in Ontario, Ride the Canadian Shield, that we've developed that we might look at launching in the next couple of years as well, which takes in a lot of the really cool things like the Algonquin Park, the Ottawa River Valley, Ottawa itself, Niagara Falls, things like that. So,
yeah. World Glad is asking largest size.
You know what? That depends. Our pricing is per person. So maybe 7 or 8 bikes. If they're all riding 2 up, that's 16 people. So it just depends. I wouldn't want to go with more than 10 to 12 bikes. That would, I think, be our maximum number of motorcycles would be 10 to 12 at the top end, right? And road gliders, Lake Superior, that's a different kettle of fish. It's highly seasonable when you're getting up that far north It's a very, very, very tight window to get up there, and it's a long ride to get up there as well. So we've talked about that. That would be a separate itinerary from our Ride the Canadian Shield program. Would be something that takes in Lake Superior. So, and is there a minimum size? Yes, road gliders. We need to have 8 persons minimum in order to operate a tour. That's 8 persons. So that could be 4 couples riding 2 up. So that would be 4 bikes, or it could be a combination of 2 up riding bikes and single riders. But it's 8 persons is our minimum. Yes, Angel Face. There are lots of photos and especially a video that was done for the tour last July. Ride the Rockies, the best of BC. It's a 30-minute video, but you can find it on the website and you can find it on the Freedom Biker Tours YouTube channel as well.
There's also quite a few videos where I feature what we've done on the Ride the West Coast stuff too. If you on my channel.
Yeah, and then we're also going to have lots of images from the region when we do the individual ride events. So,
any more questions?
We have one from Road Gliders about offering video packages for sale at the end of each tour. I don't think that's really been thought of yet.
Good answer, or good question. I don't know. It's kind of a surprise thing that we do, but okay, I'll let the cat out of the bag. Like I said, my fiance, who rides in the back of the bike with me on all the tours, she's a filmmaker and videographer. So our plan is to provide a nice, professionally done video as a surprise at the end of each tour, which is obviously included. But don't say that out loud.
Don't tell anyone.
It's supposed to be a surprise.
Yeah. Cool. We don't have much else to add. Angel has a question. Travel insurance. Obviously, they need bike insurance, but I'd say normal traveler's insurance like you would on any other vacation you take.
Yeah, correct. The tour participants are responsible for their own medical, out-of-country travel insurance, or whatever the case may be. You're totally responsible for that yourself. CMTA Travel Services can help with that if you don't do it on your own. As far as insurance on the motorcycles go, well, your own insurance would cover your bike if you're riding your own. The rental machines insurance is included.
Cool. Okay, well, on that note, we should wrap up because we're at 1:10. My goal was an hour plus minus 15 minutes, so we're right in the window. I'd like to thank everyone for coming, especially in the side chat. We maintain a good positive flow from everyone. And so we'll just go around with any closing remarks. David, anything you want to close off with?
I'm just looking forward to sharing the love of Australia and riding it with you guys and the people on the side chat and their friends.
Yep. Well, that's something I think we're all looking forward to. It's been many years since I've been down there, so I'd love to go back on a bike. For Scott, next live stream is March 2nd. It'll be in my end credits if you give me a minute. Travis, anything to add?
I was gonna say, keep an eye on the pages. There'll be lots of stuff coming up for what's coming in the next rides for Ride the Rocky Best of BC, Ride BC. Lots of videos coming out with that from all of us, and hopefully we see you there.
Yeah, cool.
Oh,
I have
one thing I wanted to mention is we've got our leap into 2024 where Freedom Biker Tours promo on right now until the end of February, because February 29th, it's a leap year this year. So I'm debating whether I'm going to extend it for a couple of weeks into March 15th, but I haven't decided on that yet. So anybody that is thinking of joining one of our tours for this year or has any friends that are thinking of doing it, it's 10% off per person right now until the end of February.
Cool. Anything else you want to add in closing remarks, JD?
Nope. It's all good. Thank you, everyone, for joining us in the side chat. Thank you, gentlemen, buddies, brothers, for joining us, and we'll We'll see you all in 2 weeks on March the 2nd when we talk about Ride the Rockies and Best of BC.
Sounds good. I'm going to roll the closing credits now.